I'm Carolyn Brockman. I teach classes here at OTC, and I teach technology for teachers, computers, and computer study strategies, and I also tutor in the Tutoring Center. But what I want to show you are some things that you can use for your technologies to make them more effective with things that you already have. One of the first things I want to show you, this is a Gartner, G-A-R-T as in Tom, N-E-R, height curve. And this is, I'm going to show you 2010 and 2015. And what you'll see, I don't know, can you see my pointer? They will be able to. Right? Okay, what you can see over a period of time, most technologies will get a height curve, which they'll get really excited about it, and then people, the energy that they have about the topic will drop down, and then people will become enlightened about the technology, and then they will make it productive. One thing that happens, sometimes things will fall off right here at this trough of disillusionment, and they're kind of funny little ways of saying it, but pretty much you get a technology trigger, people get very excited about it. They get, like say for instance, when PowerPoint came out, everybody thought that all students would be able to learn and be interested in it. But then before long, we noticed that PowerPoint was no longer what was teaching the students, which we thought it would at the beginning. And then people started learning how to use PowerPoint more productively. Some people have. And then they make it more productive. And I'm just using PowerPoint as an example because I'm going to show you some in a minute. Then I have some other things to show you. I need to go back. Oh, I can use, I remember now I can use this. I don't have to go in here. This is a 2010 height curve. And if you notice down at the bottom, years to mainstream adoption. In other words, the years it would take for it to reach a plateau of productivity. You have the white dots are less than 2 years, 2 to 5 years, and the blue dots to 5 years, you know, and so on. Obsolete before the plateau. So you can see broadband over power lines is kind of an obsolete when it reached the trough of disillusionment. So I'll give you a second to kind of look in 2010 at the technology trigger, where the items were, those that were falling off, and those that came back around. Something that I find interesting is the 3D printing was pretty exciting there. So we're going to see something about 3D printing in the next screen. Gesture recognition, which is a lot of gaming that people use right now. It was on the downhill in 2010, and then you end up having, what is it, Xbox One, and then you end up having PlayStation 4 to come out, and they're starting to be able to use it more effectively. It was falling down whenever the Wii was using it. Then we have some virtual worlds, and I never can remember it. Do you guys remember the virtual world where you walked around? It started with an S, if anybody remembers it. We walked around in the community and you went to, what was it, like Sim? Like Sim, but it was an actual program that you went into. I think it was about 2006, I remember it. It was a big deal back then. We thought all colleges and campuses were going to go to this. And we would walk into a room, and then on the wall was a marker board, and then you had an avatar and everything. So that actually... Second Life. Second Life, that's right. Thank you. Whoever said that, thank you. But that actually hit what we call the trough of disillusionment in 2010. Okay, I'm going to go back. This is 2010, and remember a few things. By the way, speech recognition came out here. You know, Dragon naturally speaking softwares like that was coming up. Hopefully you guys kind of got a good look at this one because I'm going to show you now 2015. Give you a second to look at that one. Now, some of these are, remember, these are exciting new things that are coming up right through this line. So we have digital dexterity, neurobusiness, biochips. You guys have seen the biochips that people can use with prosthetic arms, that they put a biochip in their mind, or smart robots. Those are all, 3D bioprinting systems for organ transplant. Just remember, only 5 years ago, you ended up having 3D, I think it was over here, 3D was kind of exciting, but now we even have some coming up behind it. Notice this is 5 to 10 years when they expect these items to come over here to the plateau. Now, what's interesting is a lot of times, by the time that these items reach this trough of disillusionment, a lot of these items will fall off and new products will come in their place. So it's pretty interesting. Also, the hybrid cloud computing. I can't remember if on the last slide if that was on the rise, but now that's kind of down. Cryptocurrency exchanges right now, unless we find something useful and more effective ways of using it, it's going to fall off of here. Or like virtual reality, gesture control, those are those video games I was telling you about. They actually are on the rise again. Remember, gesture control was on the fall, and now people have picked it up, and now it's back on the rise. And then remember, productivity is where we actually start using it. When PowerPoint started out, PowerPoint hit this hype curve very quickly. And now a lot of people don't use PowerPoint anymore, but PowerPoint can be a very, very effective visual tool, but people use it incorrectly, in my opinion, all the time. In fact, what you're seeing right now is a PowerPoint. I wanted to bring this up. I put 1913 in his pants so we wouldn't forget it, but this is Thomas Edison, and he's next to a movie projector, and he had actually predicted by this time that teachers would be replaced by videos in the cameras, and we know how ridiculous that sounds now. So a lot of people say that technology is going to replace teachers, but it's the teachers that are going to know how to use those technologies effectively that are actually going to be still in business. There's an interesting article, by the way, I'll tell you now so I don't forget it, it's entitled 101 Endangered Jobs by 2030. And I'll say it again, or unless you want to type it. 101 Endangered Jobs by 2030 is by Thomas Frey, and I got it off of our library database, Academic Search Elite, which would be kind of interesting to see where things are going. Driverless cars, and I mean things that we right now think way out in the future and what it's going to do to our business industry. But I think you guys are familiar, hopefully, if you've been in education classes with Bloom's taxonomy. I'll just go kind of quickly over it, but I remembered it back in college by Kansas City athletes always score exceptional. It was an acronym that we used, and then we laughed about it. But we start out with the knowledge as being when we teach being the basis of what we use, you know, like teaching the ABCs, like a student knows what the A's, the B's, the C's are. And going up through here, putting words together, sentences together, breaking sentences apart, and then being able to write information, you know, that people can evaluate and compare and things like that. These were the Bloom's taxonomy Benjamin Bloom had done that we learned in our education classes. Now, one thing that's really cool that I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to point something out that is interesting in a minute, is this I got offline, and these are for, like they call it, instead of knowledge, they call it remembering, understanding, that was your comprehension, you know, your application, applying, analyzing, but they have evaluating, creating, and flip-flops. And this, in a way, kind of bothers me because creating something doesn't mean that you know how to make good, I don't know the good words for it, maybe assumptions or, let me see. I can think of a good word for it, make it, you know, compare, contrast, make judgments based on topics and things like that you go over. But what's really cool is if you want to teach at the remembering level, which, by the way, in any grade level you are, each one of these levels is important. You know, sometimes we think that just because they're in college, people should be at the higher grade level or learning level. But again, it's very important. Vocabulary is still very important when you're learning new topics. But these are things that you can use in order to help you reach that level. And here's some more technology that you can use to reach that level. And it's kind of a cool, if you just look up Bloom's taxonomy online, you can find this exact image. It was very simple for me to find it. The thing that bothers me the most is these two have been flipped. Synthesis, in a way, is creating. In fact, I'm going to show you a Glockster. Some of you guys may have used some of these things before. Does anyone have anything to say about any of these that they've used and or have seen those? I'll give everybody a chance to speak up if anybody's seen any of these. Wolfram Alpha, I know Matt Harris, I saw him come in, I know he knows that one.
Yeah. I've used a lot of those.
In my technology for teachers class, we use a lot of them just because I want them to see them.
I use a ton of YouTube.
A ton of YouTube, yeah. YouTube is very handy. So, anybody have anything to say on that one?
Becky Jenkins has used Rubistar.
Where does Rubistar? What level is that one?
And Matt Harris has used Prezi. Rubistar.
Prezi. I'm going to talk about Prezi in a minute, Matt. Where's the, oh, I see it. Evaluating. And what was your name?
Becky Jenkins.
Becky, how did you use Rubistar here? What is Rubistar?
Let's use it to create rubrics.
Create rubrics? Okay, so it is a rubric creator? Okay, excellent. Thank you. In fact, I want to look it up now that she said it. Did she find it helpful, effective?
Matt said he couldn't figure it out.
Couldn't figure it out?
Becky says it's similar to the Blackboard rubric.
Oh, okay. All right, so in my opinion, we use the Blackboard rubric. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. A lot of these companies, I've actually had some of these companies, if you look at them, you'll see they're in the beta mode, and some of them have been written as projects for doctoral students and things like that. So I will go on to the next slide. This is a PowerPoint presentation, and you guys have probably walked past classrooms. You may have PowerPoint presentations like this. It's extremely common for this to be a PowerPoint presentation. I recommend PowerPoint presentations never, ever, 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 ever have more than 3 words on a slide. And to be honest with you, most all of my students have shared with me, and of course I myself have been guilty of using several words on a slide, because we feel like we need that crutch in order for us to get through our presentation. Well, anytime at your presentation, and I stole this from a video, so this is not completely my ideas, but anytime your presentation is for you, you need to scrap it. That presentation, it says you should go to Hawaii because, and there's a picture, and then it has 3 descriptions, but what your slides actually look like is this. And you should be the one that says that it has beautiful white sandy beaches, that it has a beautiful sunset, and it has beautiful hula girls. You are the presentation, and your PowerPoint is your bit player. So you look at the difference between the 2 slides on the kind of effect you can have on your students in taking them, to the place that you want to take them. And it's the same exact picture. Now, someone says to me, well, then what do I do? Well, this next slide shows. I just took a snapshot of the slides as I was making it. You can kind of see this is out of the PowerPoint slide. I put all my notes down here on the bottom, and then you can print out your slides as notes. And in fact, for this presentation, I printed out my slides as notes. I don't know if they can see them on the camera here in a minute. And anything that I want to say is below the slide, so I can have that like on a podium. Actually, I already knew it. Here's an example, like this. So a lot of people will write all the information on the slide. Can you see that?
Yeah, kind of. Hold it.
Kind of on this way?
There you go.
There you go. So I printed 2 pages per paper. You can do front and back, not waste all your paper. But all your notes have been down here, but your slide is full of pictures. And you should never, again, in my opinion, ever have more than 3 words on your slide at all. Using the notes area here, a lot of people don't do that. And if you insist on having your notes there for your students, then they can print out the note pages if they want. You just show them how to do that. And it's very handy. It actually takes longer to make a slide with all the, like we had earlier, that had all the bullet points than it did to find a really good picture and then you become the presenter. Here's what one of the slides, what this looks like printed out, and you can see from what I showed you before, I printed it out on 2. And then when you do your presentation, this video right here is actually on a PowerPoint slide. I'm going to show you this video in a minute. But over at the right, you see the red circle. That will show you that your notes will actually show up. If you have dual monitors, will show up on your screen when you go to present in your classroom. So your notes are all there already for you. So that video I could put on the video I'm getting ready to show you. I could put all the description on there, or I could tell the student the description, and then they can have the notes any way they wanted to. But again, the difference between an effective PowerPoint slide. Remember, the PowerPoint slide is PowerPoint is a visual tool. It is not necessarily a note-taking tool. That takes the note-taking completely out of your student's hands. This is a way that I recommend doing PowerPoint. What I have done, and I would have to, what I've done is if you can notice my cursor when I'm out here as an arrow, I have made pictures that lay on, I've taken this main picture of the cell, and I have made hotspots. In other words, I took this picture, copied, pasted, cropped it down, and right here is a picture laying on top of the original picture. It becomes a hotspot that takes me to a slide about the nucleus. Now, I just threw some stuff on there. If I was teaching this, I would then probably, I have a link over here to the right, I would probably have something that would meet my lesson a little bit better. And all at the same time, my home button is the original picture. And the reason I do that is so the student knows that when we hit that home button, we're going back to where we were before. Then I can hit on the Golgi apparatus. We have a slide about the Golgi apparatus. I could talk about that. I don't need the words up there about the Golgi apparatus. They've got it in their book already, and you're already telling them why write it up there for them. I've actually seen many of my instructors read the PowerPoint to me, and it's very frustrating and think of what all potential you could have. Then, of course, mitochondrion. When I go to the mitochondrion, I then have a video of mitochondrion on there if I want it, and then I can go back. So these are some ideas that you can do for a PowerPoint. Is you have a centralized idea. I think I don't know if I have it on here, but I use it for American government. It had pictures of legislative, executive, and judicial. And then they would click on legislative, then come back to the whole entire picture of the whole entire, government together, and then click on something else and go out to it and then come back. So it's not linear. It's always like a web. You just come back to your original idea. All you do is take a picture, you spread it out, use all of your real estate. When I say real estate, in other words, make your slide, make your picture fit as much as it can. You can remove the background very easily now. And you then take another picture, lay it on top of it, crop it down, and scoot that picture over the top, right-click, hyperlink it to a slide, and then hyperlink your slide back to the original.
We have a couple of questions online.
Sure.
Becky Jenkins asks, is this called interactive PowerPoint? And I think that's a fair classification.
Well, actually, when you say interactive PowerPoint, I am assuming interactive, you mean like a smartboard type of interactive?
She's typing.
Okay, cool. It's a great question.
And yes, PowerPoint is able to do this. It's able to click. You can put the hyperlink. That's what.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. And then Tom asked, does Camtasia do the same thing?
In Camtasia, as far as I understand with Camtasia, it is you record your screen, and you would make a recording of yourself doing this, if I understand. So Camtasia, it would still be linear. You couldn't jump around to different points in it. What's really nice about this is what if I, this day, don't want to talk about the Golgi apparatus and I want to talk about the ventriole. I could click, or centriole, excuse me, and then I could click back home. And to answer your question about the PowerPoint, what was it, interactive PowerPoint?
Yeah, she said she's heard some people say that they do interactive PowerPoints, and she's thinking that this is maybe what they're talking about when they say
Well,
that.
to be honest with you, I don't know. What I think of an interactive PowerPoint, do you all know?
I think, well, the interactivity is it just lets students explore at their pace where they want to go, what they want to do, and I think it puts them in the driver's seat as opposed to you lecturing and pulling them down that linear path.
Right. Well, what I have done is I've hidden all the slides. I would have to show the students how to use this PowerPoint presentation. But this is, assuming I'm talking in class or I'm doing like that, what I'm doing with you guys now. And just like, is it Jennifer? Was it her name, Jennifer?
Becky.
Becky. Ask a question. If the student was to ask a question and wanted to go over here and talk about the rough endoplasmic reticulum, we could just click on that and talk about it then. Otherwise, a lot of students don't see the relationship. Once you leave this picture of the cell, Then they see a Golgi apparatus. Then the next thing they see is a mitochondria. The next thing they see, and they don't come back to the original picture. And that's where you lose a lot of effectiveness in your PowerPoint, and it's super easy to do. In fact, at the end of this presentation, I have my contact information, and I could show you guys in an instant how to do this. You do it once or twice, and you'll always know it. What's interesting with my Technology for Teachers class, I have the students make one like this, and at the end of the semester right now, they're making another PowerPoint, and they're regressing back to the old way of making PowerPoints, which was funny because they're kind of stuck in one way of making it. But you can really make a interactive, in my opinion, but I don't know if that's what they're talking about. In fact, if you find out, I would love if you'd email me and tell me about that. I'd like to learn about that. Now, what's really cool is if you notice that my hand, it turns to a hand, so that's a link, but if I just click out here, I can go on to another topic. And the topic that I'm going on to now is what I've done is called stop motion animation. And I will not try to admit to you guys that I've been doing this forever. I just learned about this at a teaching conference, and then I used it with my students in my Technology for Teachers class. What stop motion animation is I'm going to show you an example on the next slide, is where the student will make out a story, and then they move objects in the frame, like Lego Movie Maker will do it, move objects in the frame, and then make a movie out of it. The effective part of using this is literally this worksheet. This is Jocelyn, and she has, and I'm going to apologize to you because there's going to be something kind of, if you just ate, there's going to be something kind of vulgar in there with some Play-Doh, but she started the picture, she brought some toys, started the picture, the bug comes into the scene, the bug climbs up on the table, Wolverine then stabs the bug, eats the bug, then I apologize, and then falls out of the chair. Okay, the idea was, the importance behind this video, having into this video, was being able to do these steps in the storytelling. So establish a normal, you guys can read, introduce a catalyst, the change, and of course if you're doing writing, you could have the way that you set up your writing. That brings me back to something else, but I won't go into it. I'll get myself thrown off, but if you can actually adapt this kind of activity that you're getting ready to see to yourself. I wanted to, I don't know, I was thinking about that PowerPoint presentation. I have seen people make, and I'll do it really quickly, get here. I have seen people make, instead of this picture, they've actually made intro, body, conclusion, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, an image there, and they actually would click on intro, go to a slide about intro, click on the first paragraph, go to the slide about the first paragraph, and so they always came back to how the story came back together. And this is kind of something that you could have done with, the video game, the video that you're getting ready to see on writing a story. Is you had a PowerPoint on what it means to establish a normal, what it means for a catalyst, what it means for change. It depends on how you want to teach it. So we had the students fill out this worksheet, had to plan it out, and then here is the videos they make. And again, I apologize for this scene right here. I thought it was funny.
No, but it's sorry. There is a lag for videos that play through the collaborated screen share.
Okay.
So
there's no sound. I'll go ahead and play it, and then you tell me when it's done.
Okay.
Okay. Here is the video that the girls made in the back of the room. First time they ever tried. Okay, and of course they're going to be future teachers, but the point that I wanted to make with this is the effectiveness. Let me get back to that slide before. Oh, so on the back, that slide. The effectiveness actually comes from setting it up, and then the students, what's so important about this video is that they actually, when I went back to class and I asked them, how many of you guys went back and watched your video, everyone raised their hand, and they actually revisited their story. They revisited what it was about. They watched it over and over, showed their family members, and they have what they call a project like this, what they call WOW, and it's called Worthy of the World. Instead of Worthy of Your Teacher or Worthy of the Classroom, it's called Worthy of the World because they post it now on YouTube. And the students then show it to your family, they can share it, and they can do things like that. So again, the acronym is WOW, and we try to push that Worthy of the World. This next picture is actually my objective in here. It's kind of odd. They could put a t-shirt on Arnold if they wanted to, but the objective was for them to be able to edit pictures using Microsoft Word. All this was Microsoft Word, and I thought, you know, being a teacher in the public school system, the class that I taught this to, they need to know how to edit the background out of a picture. So the only requirements were that they needed to use, this is an original picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger a long time ago, with a glass of, I think, brandy or something, in front of an ocean. And they had to eliminate all of the ocean, eliminate the brandy, and they had to take a Kermit the Frog, and then they had to have a bubble. That's all they had to have. Then they created the story, and by doing so, they edited out the background of this. They edited out the background of this going on. They created a fun little story that was off to the side that you could have had all kinds of ideas with this, guys, and then of course we had the spaghetti. But some of these, I've even had students use their own home pictures, and Arnold Schwarzenegger became them on their own horse riding through the countryside. I've had them on a camel going through the desert, and Miss Piggy sitting on the side of a camel and riding with them, and the worst one was whenever they had Miss Piggy on a spigot over a fire. But I know it's terrible, but it was actually the objective was met. That's what they did. So can't lie about it. That's what they did. So this is also in Microsoft Word, and I think some of you guys may have already used it before. If not, this was done by another student. And this is using SmartArt. SmartArt, if you haven't used it yet with your students, you could help them a lot with organizing ideas. And you can find out mistakes that they're making. In a minute, I'll show you one. This particular one was made by a student who wants to be a PE teacher. And he did his exercises, mixed them up in cardio and weight training. He did his running. You could see these. I won't read them to you. And then he came up with an exercise plan for students. This student actually has a reading disability, and I can barely get him to read. We had a blogging project, and he hated it, but this project, he just went to town on it. And he was outlining, and he didn't realize it because when you use the, SmartArt, over on the left, a box will come open, and that box will be literally an outline, your primary, your secondary, your tertiary levels that you have to follow, which is kind of interesting. Has anyone ever used SmartArt before? Am I repeating to them something they already know?
Doug Henry teaches CIS 101, so he's probably pretty familiar with it. Matt says that he's used it.
Okay.
I've used it, but I've never had students use it, so I think that's interesting to get them familiar with the tools and use them effectively.
Yeah, and the learning curve on it is I usually spend about 10-15 minutes of having the students learn how to use tab and back tab. A lot of people don't know you can shift and hit back tab. And so I show them that, and then I keep reminding them to be over here on the outline of it. But you can imagine that if you had the cell, you could put a mitochondria, you could put a Golgi apparatus, and then underneath those you could put, hydrogen going across the mitochondria, that kind of thing. You could really go to town with it.
Yeah, and I think since they're learning to become teachers as well,
yep.
This would really be a good tool for them to use if they're making concept maps and things
right.
like that.
Go ahead. I've actually used this on students who aren't necessarily going to be teachers also, and have had a lot of luck with it. I'll show you one. The reason why I have examples of these right away is because I grabbed these out of the class I was in because they were easy and accessible to get to. I'll show you, this is a actual PowerPoint presentation that a student made for me. And that's when we were talking about federal and state governments, when we did the picture and we clicked out the different areas. And so I had him save that slide on the PowerPoint, and I came over here And he made this is also a smart art, and it's a Venn diagram. In the middle, you actually have to insert a text box, so there's another little bit of learning thing there. Added the pictures on it, but what was interesting, I don't know if you guys noticed, that in the slide before, all these things were in both sides. So at the end here was the stuff in the middle. Here you can't see it. The student actually had to stop and think about where to put them in a Venn diagram. Venn diagrams became popular in the 90s, and we've had them going on for 20 years now. And you could use your Venn diagram in your classroom for all kinds of ideas. And by the way, I teach CIS 101 also, so if you have any questions on how you can use it in CIS, I'd love to help you out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is all about exchanging ideas.
Yes, I'd love to visit about this stuff. I'm passionate about it. I love it. This is one that I found very interesting, and Matt may not see it right off the bat, and he might see it right off the bat, but when I tutor students in math, one of the most common things I see is this issue right here. A teacher actually made this, and she put add, subtract, multiply, and divide, how to do it, and then put examples at the bottom. So she made her graphic organizer like this. But as her instructor, and also being familiar with math, this is a very big problem in in the public school system. The worksheets the kids get, they see that over and over again. So they start assuming that the biggest number is what you divide by, or it gets divided into by the smallest number. And we see that even in our math classes, it happens over and over again. So she and I were able to talk about that and fix that issue. If you had students, and I've had students before do this one, they're integers, add, subtract, multiply, divide, they're positive and negative numbers, and they put the rules down here. I've done it with fractions before, and you can pick out immediately, and they can pick out immediately where their mistakes or commonalities are. And it's a very interesting thing that you can use, and this is in Word, and it's very simple. You don't necessarily have to have something off of that big triangle we looked at earlier in order to be able to pick something out like this simple. This is something, and Matt, you said something about being familiar with Prezi. This is something that really, I kind of find, I love irony and sarcasm, so I get a kick out of this. But this is I just went and found 2 adult learning models just offline. These don't belong to anyone here on campus, so nobody worry. But I'm going to click on this one and take you guys out to a Prezi. Will they have light on this a little bit too?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I find ironic is Prezi is a visual tool. In a way, it's like PowerPoint. In fact, when you really think about it, it is a PowerPoint. It's just a moving PowerPoint, so people get excited about it. Does that make it effective? No, not really. And so this, if you look at it as a PowerPoint slide, you guys may know andragogy, but that's adult learning instead of pedagogy for children. But you guys may or may not know why love, peace, and joy is here. It looks like that's about the time this was going on, is the reason why that person put that picture. That picture does not support andragogy. Then you get the person here that evidently is the, that's Howard Gardner, isn't it? You guys know?
I think it is.
He just doesn't have his black glasses on.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Harvard. So I'm glad that I thought that because I just went blank and I was scared. Okay, yeah, I think that's Howard Gardner. He does the multiple intelligence, levels of multiple intelligences. So you go to the next slide, and here is another text-heavy slide. And what purpose does Prezi have? You could use PowerPoint to do text-heavy. It's really, to me, I find it ironic, and to me it's frustrating as a student. I'm thinking, can you print this out for me and send me home? I'll read it later. Tell me something that I can ask a question about. Because, for instance, I gave this presentation before, and the lady that was with me said that when there's reading up there, she doesn't hear what the presenter says whatsoever. She's reading. Or someone will listen to the presenter and won't be reading. So, and again, I'll show you a few more, again, very text-heavy. So that's why on this PowerPoint, when I was doing this earlier, why I had kind of a little scowl face, because I get a little frustrated when I come to a presentation and I sit there through that. What's interesting is you see them everywhere. What I do recommend, and this one looks, and I've had people tell me it gives them headaches, but what this one does is I'll take you to the website. This was something somebody did, but they put a lot of pictures into it, and you can obviously tell that they're going to be speaking during this presentation. So they discuss this, they have the comments, you know, and I may be lagging, so I'll try not to go too fast.
Becky Jenkins said she's used Prezi, but she wonders if there's a place for notes so that the slides would be less.
Actually, I do not know of a place for notes in Prezi. No, I'm not familiar with that. There doesn't mean there isn't any. Anytime I've ever used Prezi, I've made them to where there's a centralized idea and we went out of it. In fact, it was 80s trivia, and we kept coming back to things about the 80s. So I don't know of any place where you could do the notes on that. You can. I don't even know if you can print out the slides, but I'm assuming you can. I can't imagine not being able to print out the slides. Okay. So you can make your own notes on them. But again, these slides are something that this instructor could then talk about and not have the students read off of. You could see, in general, basically what I'm trying to get at. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far before I go on any further? Good? Okay. This is something interesting I wanted to show you guys. Cartoon Network, on the left is what they used to be. When technology came out, these companies thought, man, we need blam, blam, blam. And then on the right is actually what the icon looks like today. And so you notice, I just found it interesting when I saw this picture. I've been saving this to use it somewhere. Because when I found this picture, I thought, man, you know, Cartoon Network, I remember it like that. And I remember Nickelodeon being like this. But they've all found a need for it to be clear, non-distracting, and very crisp. Notice what happened over the years in Microsoft on their icon. So you see right now they have probably one of the most crisp and plain and most, you know, obviously recognizable icons that they've used over and over again. Which is, I believe, the reason why they had the 4 colors was that for Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Access or something like that?
Access was purple. Outlook.
Okay, Outlook.
Because Access wasn't Windows main package.
Okay, so they have changed their icon, and it's funny because they end up coming up with this kind of a streamlined look. That's the word for it. Yes, it's almost all the way back to the beginning. And so I just thought that was interesting. That's a slide I wanted to show you guys. These are, I think, has anyone made Glogster before? You have made Glogster? Yay! Glogster is a very cool place, and this is Frida Kahlo. This is one of my students that made this over an artist. And we were just playing with Glogster, and the topic that she wanted to make was, and she's a future art teacher. And what's cool about this is you can actually add videos, you can add pictures, you can add text that you want, and you can organize the things that you want to do. And the student is keeping these ideas. Here's another one. The students are keeping these ideas in their mind for longer than 8 seconds. And if you've studied about rote learning, you want, flashcards aren't necessarily the best thing for people because they're, so quick within just a few seconds. But if you can keep something in someone's brain for longer than 8 seconds, there's a higher chance for them to put it in a long-term memory. So being able to put together a poster board, like what we've done traditionally in the classroom, that's what they do here, but this one's dynamic with the videos that you can add to. They can print it out. I've actually made a poster board for the Blue Society and put it inside of a newsletter that I made for them using this program. It's called Glogster, and I don't know if Google owns it. I think they do, because yes, they do, because whenever we logged into it, we used our Gmail. The students used their Gmail to do it. By the way, the Google Classroom was huge at the last presentation I went to at Moornet in St. Louis, and in the public school system, Google Classroom is becoming a big deal. They're sending Google Chromebooks home. Evolver has them, and the Republic has them. You guys may know the schools that have them.
Springfield Public Schools.
Springfield's doing it too. Yeah. So what they're doing is the Google Classroom, and then you can put documents and presentations and things all up there. I've tried to play with Google Classroom some, but I honestly been busy working on other stuff. But if I had a need for it, it's kind of cool that you can share the items that you need to. But that is up and coming and big, and you're going to have students in their classroom used to that. So that's something to be thinking about. This is something I know Matt has used this one, and I use Matt a lot because I know Matt, so I don't know all of you guys, but this is Remind software, and this has been one of the most handy and easy to use softwares that I've ever used, on contacting my students all at once. And you can actually, this one is a one-on-one remind to a particular student. But you can also, and she sent me a picture, and she could text me herself, but you can also text the whole entire classroom at once. And when my granddaughter was born, that's the exact text that I sent. In fact, that's September 20th, that's her birthday, and that's the text I sent to all my students. And I said, you have a sub, attendance will be taken. and the students all got it. And they every single one of them, and I only had one classroom that had students that did not have a cell phone that they could use, and we sent it to their email, because when you sign up with Remind, you can sign up with their email also. And the students know that they're responsible to check their OTC emails like we expect anyway. Has anyone used this one, had success with it?
My kids, almost all of their activities and teachers use Remind 101. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's so easy to keep track of everything.
Right.
I have told other teachers when I go to parent-teacher conference, I'm like, you don't have a Remind 101. Would you like to get a Remind 101 account? Because that would be super helpful.
Right. The cool thing about this is that you have access to your students immediately, and then I will also text students. They have a little chat feature where you can text students individually and say, hey, I didn't pick up that document that you had for me. What do you want to do about that? And they'll text me right back and say, oh, I have it, I forgot it, and that kind of thing.
Becky Jenkins is asking, what's the benefit of using that instead of like an announcement in Blackboard?
Oh, because it goes directly to their cell phone in their pocket. They don't have to get on Blackboard or their email. It goes directly to their cell phones.
Yeah.
And that's what's so handy about it. And I want to tell another thing that's big is what they call BYOD. You probably have heard is bring your own device. And all the classes that I've done, I have rarely ever had a student that didn't have a device with them. And it's more so as time goes on. Most of the students are usually the older students that I have in class that don't have their own device. And most of them do anyway. It's the only time I've ever come across it was an older student. So I haven't done research on that, and so I can't say that for a fact, but that's my experience.
I've used Remind 101 as well. One of the problems that I have, and I think maybe other people do too, is using so many different tools. Facebook is another one, and just having to break up where you would, that centralized place where you might send all your announcements out, and then having to do it again somewhere else and keep track of it. And I'm just wondering, you do announcements as well as Remind?
Yeah, I do different. I don't even have them related to one another, to be honest with you. A Remind is just like, say, I would send someone say, hey, don't forget your books tomorrow. We haven't used them all week, but tomorrow don't forget your books. Sure. That's the kind of thing I send Reminds for. And like my granddaughter.
So maybe just categorizing what you use each tool for.
Exactly. Yeah. I do have announcements that I use in Blackboard. I'm glad you guys bring this up because in my mind it makes sense. Coming out of my mouth, I want you guys to ask me. So the Blackboard announcements I use for things that I want to stay up there for a longer period of time. I had actually even texted and said that, hey, check your email. There's something important in there because they had links to things that they needed, things like that. So Remind is really handy because it's more of like a just, hey, think about this kind of thing. It's not as formal.
Matt's asking if there's a widget that could be inserted into Blackboard, like a Twitter widget from Remind 101. Like,
that's an interesting.
I don't think they.
I have never seen one. Doesn't mean they don't have one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one yet, and it would be something that would be worth finding out.
Blackboard would just buy Remind 101 and get part of their program, and that would work a whole lot.
Yeah, that is actually. I think it's the future, to be honest with you. I really do. When people see these things, and like you say, they're everywhere, but nothing is really all together. But what happens is it's a business. Right. All of it is a business. And so when you do that, you're going to have a company buy out another company, buy out another company. Then it becomes all Google.
Right.
Because Google does have a messaging system like this, but you can only message 5 people at a time. Just so you know.
Becky Jenkins asked if there was a, if you use Remind 101, can students send messages back? And I know there's different configurations. So.
Good question. My students have asked, if you send a classroom one, you do not get messages straight back. What you have to do is you have to go in and specifically set up a texting to, you know, a group of students. So if you put them all, then they can text back. The reason why I think they don't do that is so you won't get everybody bombarded with everybody else's text. So it's the Remind. The idea is absolutely fantastic, but there's some kinks that, as we find, the effective use, that goes back to our hype curve. You know, right now, Remind 101 is probably on the down slope, maybe not as exciting anymore, but they're going to start using the you know, effective, productive ways of using it, and it's going to go to that plateau, like we talked about in Gartner's hype curve.
Yeah, I know my my daughter started it years ago when my oldest was in middle school, and I always signed up for it, but this year, my youngest daughter, who's in middle school, she's given me the Remind 101 to sign up for, and she signed up for it, because she just, it was only used like teacher, parent, and now students are jumping in there.
Yes.
So.
At home, my stepsons, they use the Remind, and I use the Remind, so they both know that I did it too. What's simple about it is that you get a little worksheet that sends home with your students, and they can just sign up for it. This next one is one of my favorite tools. We see it a lot here on campus in the Disability Support Services actually checks it out with students. We sell them in the bookstore, and it's called a Live Scribe Echo Smart Pen. And live meaning, live, and then scribe meaning writing. But I think a lot of you guys have probably seen this, but what the book has is a series of little dots in this book. And what this pen does is it maps what is written to these series of dots. What's the cool part is the pen has a microphone and a speaker in it. So you can actually click on the words and play back what your instructor was saying at that exact moment in time. It's not reading the words, it's actually reading that dot where you wrote the words on. And students can play it, and it also has a USB connector that you can connect it to your computers, and you can download all the notes to your computers and all the audio to your computers, which is very handy for students. We use it in disability services because we have note-taking for students. They also may be taking notes and need to hear the classroom. But I recommend it, and I sent students there, financial aid will pay for it at the bookstore to pick one of these up. The textbook, the pen and 3 textbooks cost about $125, and the textbooks after that cost anywhere $5 to $7 a piece. But they don't use as much paper for some reason. But this has been extremely handy note-taking. Students who prefer audio learning, that kind of thing. It's very handy. Have any of you guys seen these in action?
No, but that's super cool.
It is.
I want one.
It is
everywhere.
Well, imagine, you guys know the forgetting curve. I should have thrown that in here. The forgetting curve, usually within a day or two, you only remember 48, 50% of what you learned 2 days ago. Within 48 hours, you half of what you've learned. Within a week, you only remember 25 to 26% of what you learned. So you can imagine you're going back to your notes that were done last week or a month ago because you're going to take finals, and you can go back and hear what the teacher said at that time, which is really handy. Very handy. This is a cool little tool. You can see it's a little bracelet here that. And it's funny because I wanted to find out what this tool was called, so I took this picture and I put it into images.google.com and searched it, and that is not on her arm. So this is actually put on there, after the fact. But what it is it's a little projector, and it will project these germs on their hands, and as they wash their hands, the germs will go away. And it's cool. And then when they're eating, it has a sensor. When she's picking an apple, it has a smiley face if she was picking something unhealthy. Well, if you think about it, though, as soon as you get the food industry in there, they're going to be saying, hey, I want a smiley face. But, you know, when you think about it, it also gives them rewards for things that they've done. They can set it up with the classroom, which I love for Dr. Spock. Thing going on here, but anyway, you've got these in the classroom, and you also have a questioning system that you can use. I haven't looked into this any further, but this is something I found just here recently, and I thought one thing I noticed right off the bat is it doesn't have multicultural in there, and so the projection on the skin is on a student who has very light skin. So I started thinking right off the bat the problem with the technology and something that simple. But as time goes, we'll see whether that falls into the trough of disillusionment or if we get that plateau of productivity like we talked earlier. But that is something that is new that's coming up. It's pretty cool about the hand washing. But yeah, then you get it wet and then it dries. But no, I'm joking. This is smart boards, and are we running all the way till 2 o'clock, or are we going to 12:50?
Actually, we have a session at 2, so another session coming in at 2, so we need
okay.
to have
I can share this with you guys later, but on these, I was going to take you to some smart boards. On smart technology, or smarttech.com, these 2 slides are actually just like what I was pointing out with our PowerPoint and with our Prezi. Very text-heavy slides and very hands-on slide that you can actually use.
Did you know the name of that device?
That device?
Yeah.
Yes. The hand device that we had just a second ago?
Yeah.
Let me find it in my notes. This is called a Learning Bracelet HP Plus. It has what the technology is called a PICO projector, P-I-C-O projector. And I have it bolded and underlined there if you want to type it up. So,
and we'll send out information about these with the follow-up email.
I wanted to point out the use that you could use of comics and journals in our Blackboard. Matt may recognize this, but I put in comics that have a little bit of sarcasm and irony in them, and students will respond, and I have to require more than 5 sentences, but that's a very handy technology to use in our Blackboard, and this is even in a seated classroom that I use this in. And they have it, I set it up to where they have it due by Tuesday, and I don't really even do anything but other than respond to them. And they have comics that are related to the topic that we're discussing, and then it encourages deeper discussion. And these are some games online. This is what my master's degree is on. You can take students you can look up interactive online chemistry or interactive, both of these, that's why I search is interactive online chemistry, and I get these games that you can go to. For the sake of time, I won't take you to them, but you can search those and find these games, and this one is especially interesting because you have to find a molecule based on how many valence electrons they have. And then this is one of my favorite games. The reason why I point this game out is because it gives you a score sheet at the end. And I've actually had students do this. The oldest student I taught multiplication to is over 60 years old. And here on campus, in every math class I've had people learn the multiplication. But they get an instant feed, and then when they're done, I have them printed out as a score sheet. So the games I really do enjoy to use for students, and then have them end up sitting in their score sheet as their assignment. They have to reach like 80% or 90%, and then once they do that, then they can turn that in and do that. This is, I want to point out, and I found this in several places, that if your brain is learning, it's interested, it does not have to be something that is like a tuba band coming in through the room being exciting. Every teacher thinks they have to be exciting, but if you have a learning environment where the student is learning, your brain is interested, period, no matter what kind of technology you use. So you don't even have to have the technology. That's my phone number and my email. You're more than welcome to email me, and I'll send you either this, or I'll talk to you, share with you, show you anything that you guys want to learn more about.